Well, good evening, everyone. I'm sure you're super excited to find that we are here yet again. Um, Tonight we have a special guest spot focus. You won't believe that we have managed to procure this man from the wilderness. He's come to join us to talk on our favorite subject. Some of you may know him. He's occasionally done some low-key stuff. He's talked a few little bits here and there. But, we really wanted to get back down to a topic that we all love and the reason that we really set up Raw Pet Medics. And so, we truly are back to food tonight. And our special guest, can you believe it? Drum roll, please. Good evening, Dr. Nick Thompson.
Good evening, everybody.
Sorry, that was a little bit of a procrastination of how dare you take a week off, young man.
Yeah, you take a week off, and and Brendan takes the piss. I mean, what can you do? I'm sure Clayton was full of business gems. What a great bloke he is. I haven't listened to it yet, but I'm sure it's an absolute cracker. How are you doing, Bren?
Great. I haven't obviously been to the gym working out, so I can't come in with a sleeveless vest.
Oh, sorry. Okay, so listen, here's the story. We got back at about 5:30, 6 o'clock, emptied the car, and I sat down for the first time at 6:40 for 5 minutes. Okay, literally straight off the road. We started packing this morning at 7:30. That's the dog. Sorry, Pete. We started packing this morning at 7:30, and it was raining. Okay, so we deliberately took our time to pack the tent. The children have got a small tent, and Ellie and I packed the big tent, and we've got an awning on the tent, and we've got all the accoutrements inside. Guess how many hours it took to pack all of that, and 2 dogs, because we left Jed at home. It took us 6.5 hours to pack the tent. Can you believe it? So there we go. So I have been packing. We then drove for 2.5 hours to get back here. We were in sunny, well, not so sunny this morning, Somerset, just outside beautiful Porlock in a little valley. We were camping for 10 days with the kids.
Oh, nice.
And it was absolutely beautiful, I have to say. I think I've got the best tan. Not that you can see it. I have got a tan. I've actually got a tan.
And you're so glad you're not in the same room as me.
and so literally this is my camping gear, and we're in orange today. Got me orange trow on, and so all good, but very much glad to be back in the fray. And tonight we're going to be talking about food. Yeah, and I was just saying to Bren, I think what we should do is every month we should do some content which is really going to appeal to people who are new to Raw, because the people are coming on to Raw Pet Medics every week, and we should do something that's kind of in between a medium level, and we should do some high level stuff. And within those, I'm sure when we do the basic stuff, we'll throw in a few nuggets of goodness for those people who are who've been in Raw for some time. But also when we're doing the advanced stuff, I'm sure we'll be able to make it accessible to those people who are new to Raw. I think it's really important that we all travel together on this journey. But as I say, wonderful to be back. And yeah, back live. It's very bizarre to be packing a tent all day long. It's like, oh, Arthur, go and pick that up.
I thought you had one of these wonderful tents that you could
got a blow up,
unplug, and it just went.
Yeah, but It's full. We're not so much camping as glamping. I have to say,
Ah,
we've gone back to really basic beds. Tell me when you're bored of camping stories. We've gone back to very basic beds because we've tried absolutely everything. We've tried blow up beds. We've tried kind of a frame bed, which was pretty good, but
mm,
weighed an absolute ton. When we went to Wilderness last year, I haven't told you about Wilderness. I will tell you about that
yeah,
shortly.
yeah.
Um, we actually got three-quarters of the way to Wilderness. Luckily, it's only an hour and a half away, hour and a quarter away, and we thought, shit, we haven't got the beds. So we had to turn around and come back because otherwise we had zero to sleep on. So
Oh,
we've gone back to mats, sleeping mats now,
see,
and we've
I was
tried
always
everything in
told
between. Yeah,
when you do that
yeah,
and you turn up 3 hours later,
yeah.
is you've got to start collecting bracken and dried grass and you stuff it underneath the ground sheet so that you create your own
Yeah,
mattress.
create. Yeah,
None of this packing beds with you. It's
yeah.
just
Yeah, I mean if you were camping in the wild, then that would absolutely be an appropriate thing. You should have as much underneath you as you have
Mm,
on top of you, as they say,
yeah.
when you for insulation, both from above and below. But if you are at Wilderness is a festival that we go to. It's a very family friendly festival. There's lots of food, and lots of music, and lots of poetry, and lots of this, that, and the other, and
Was
lots of
Ellie singing
dancing.
again? Was she on
Is Ellie
stage?
singing?
Was she?
She no. They do a choir every year, but for some reason she didn't do the choir.
All right. Okay.
They I'm just trying to think of some of them. They're always tear jerkers. You've got
Mm,
these 45 people who are wilderness festival goers, and they all come together, and you've got the basses, and you've got the sopranos, you've got the altos and things, and they all come together, and over just 3 days produce the most beautiful sound when they sing the song. I think they did Bridge Over Troubled Water, I think, last year. They do those kind of heart-rending songs.
mm, mm.
Absolutely beautiful. I can't think of any. They did a Beach Boys, God Only Knows. If you've never heard God Only Knows by the Beach Boys, absolutely beautiful song.
Wow.
They did that a few years ago, and
Mhm.
they did Sinead O'Connor's what the Prince song. Uh, he says, grappling in his mind, own. Oh God, it starts. It's been 16 hours and 14 days since you took
You were gone.
my
Yeah.
baby away, or something like that.
Mm, mm.
Absolute, just grips your heart and squeezes it. Beautiful, beautiful. So anyway, she wasn't doing the choir this year because we were busy with the kids, and did a lot of dancing. Went out and dancing every night, which was absolutely amazing.
Debbie Williams says it's nothing compares to you.
Nothing compares to you, Debbie Williams. What a star you are. Yes. If you've never heard that one, definitely worth checking that one out. Beautiful.
And Alice, if you want to know where Connor is, he's at the moment sipping a beer, relaxing, watching his kids run around, and driving his wife nuts.
Of course.
So, he's away.
He's away. Is he in Ireland or away, or are we not saying?
I believe he wasn't travelling too far
He
for
wasn't
this
traveling
one.
too far. Fair enough. Good. So he's in sunny Ireland. I hope he's having a great time. I'm sure he'll listen back to this because we are so scintillating. So Connor, yeah, I hope you're having a great time, matey. Yeah, enjoy your time off. It's great. It is nice to get away, but it's lovely to come back. So
Mm.
there you go. That's our 9 minutes of fill
Flute.
in, a little bit of background, where we've been and what we're doing, and all that kind of stuff. So we're going to talk about food. So let's talk about the basics of food. Where, Bren, you've been able to think about this today, and I've been packing tents. So,
I don't know. I've been doing a load of other work. Some of
work.
us have to
Ooh,
work
that's
for
a
a
bad
living.
habit.
We can't just go swanning around
Mm,
talking to
mm,
people.
mm.
So,
Yeah, but that's
um,
what we do for a living, isn't it?
yeah,
We
it is
talk to
indeed.
people, which is
Yes.
one of the joys.
Yeah.
I find one of the joys is I talk to some absolutely fantastic people whose
Mm.
unfortunately dogs are in distress, but uh, because of what I do, holisticvet.co.uk, people select. You know, people
Mm.
who they've either tried pharmaceutical approach or they've tried an ultra processed approach to food, and they are either disappointed with that, or they um, they themselves look at things from a more holistic perspective, and therefore they want that for the dog. It's really surprising that there are so many people who are very holistic for themselves and for their kids or for their family and how they eat and what have you, and yet they're still feeding ultra processed food. Do you find that?
I do, and that's a really interesting point because literally yesterday I was having some consults, filling in for some of the vets on holiday,
Yeah.
so doing some standard consults and talking to effectively novel clients to that thought of food and everything else.
Okay.
Because we run a truly integrative practice, which sort of
Good
also
for you.
deals with frontline work as well. And having that conversation with a couple of clients, one after the other, that were in for standard check-ins and talking about health implications for their dog's skin and what was going on for another dog's digestive system,
Yeah.
and we were talking about diets, and I was just talking about the health impact of the processed diets, because I always do a dietary check-in, that fifth vital assessment of
Good man.
nutrition, um, and just understanding, there's a lot of people out there, cost of living is an issue, and they'll be saying that they're using these biscuits or
Fair
some
enough.
other bit meat, or some of them will be choosing a fresh cooked diet of
Hmm.
the various choices out there. I'm not going to go into those right now, but they will then add in a baseline biscuit as a fear of balance. They've been told that if they don't feed that, then they'll be missing some vital nutrients,
Yeah.
and then just bringing in some relevance, that conversation about what they're doing with their kids, because these are family people. They're not just sort of like a pet only
Yeah.
family. They've got kids as well,
Yeah.
and they're talking about, we equate some of those ultra processed foods to ready meals and what's on the table for them and their kids. And they'll quite happily talk about, oh yeah, we're really into fresh foods and trying to get away from chicken nuggets and all of the classics that kids will crave after, literally crave, because they become addicted because of what they
Totally.
put in those foods.
Totally.
um, and it's that realization point that oh, actually, that is really what we're doing. We've sacrificed, for the sake of convenience, fresh foods for a lot
Yeah.
of our pets. And
Yeah.
it's that mind click. And I love the book Ultra Processed People, because that, if anything, for parents, clicks people into understanding, and both of these guys had heard of that, of the Chris Van Tollecken, and the TV doctor, and the book, interestingly. And so they said, oh, do you know what, I've heard of that. It's one of those that friends and family have been talking about listening to, and or reading, and that because we've got kids and everything else. And I said, well, look, you've got to think of, your pet is another family member. You've got to think, just as importantly, that actually one of the biggest impacts on health you can make is giving the right sort of food to your pet. As little as 25% fresh food in the diet can make a health impact. Well, of course it can, and that's brilliant. But obviously, if you want to make the biggest health impact, you want to try and get a little bit higher than that, and I would, that's why we're advocates of raw feeding and fresh food feeding, and on a whole basis, and not really putting processed foods into their bowls. But
Totally agree. Really interesting. The people who we were camping next to near Porlock, the the very next people, and this is going to make your heart glad, Bren. They were feeding raw food to their dog. Can you believe it?
well,
Absolutely brilliant. And you may think, well, big deal. But actually, what's the probability of somebody next door? They had a lab, Monty, about 8 or so years old, and they were feeding raw. And that says to me that that we, the greater we, not you and I and Connor, are having an impact. We
Yeah.
are getting that message through, which is very, very heartening. And
Quite exciting to be on that wave, actually, of people waking up and realizing the impact that it has.
Totally, it's a revolution. It
Mm.
is nothing short of a. I was going to say a bloodless revolution, but actually, it's there is drippy stuff around when you thaw your stuff out.
Your organs.
That's right. That's right. And I think it's really wonderful. I mean, it's very interesting that you say that there are people who don't get it and then suddenly do. Just to justify the fact that I do actually do some work on the Friday before we left on Saturday. Okay, so we're talking where we Tuesday today. So 5 days ago was Friday. So a week before that, I actually did a talk at the Wellness Way Festival for an hour. This is Philly J. Lay. If you don't know about her and you're into health for humans, then please check her out. I did an interview with her probably about 5 months ago, and her catchline is the doctor of the future is you. And I think that is the nutritionist of the future is you. Yeah. Within this raw pet medics context. And so I did a talk, and we had a fabulous crowd, and I had a whole hour prepared, and but I just wanted to talk to people because they were really buzzy about these things.
Mhm.
And so we just did Q&A. We did Q&A more or less. I put a few slides up and what have you. And everybody was fascinated with the raw journey. There were some people who were feeding raw already, and they were very supportive of what we were saying. But there are other people who you could just see the light go on in their minds when I said, well, it's ultra processed food, because everyone in the audience is the Wellness Way
Mm. Mm.
web festival, and everybody in the audience was thinking about food, or they were vegetarian, or they were only using biodynamic or whatever it might be, and you go, oh yeah. I've been going along, either the vet or the local supermarket or the local pet shop or what have you has been saying that we should be feeding this ultra processed stuff because it's got a picture of a dog on the front and it's scientifically formulated and everything else. And the lights have just come on. And it's just wonderful to be able to see that transformation of thought.
Yeah.
And interestingly, we were saying just before we came on that um, one of the places where people fall down is that they're feeding raw, and then the dog gets ill. Perhaps they get some kidney disease, or they get some liver disease, or heart disease, and what have you. And that's where I find, and I'm taking this from your lead earlier, is that's where they falter. That they go to the vets, and the dog is diagnosed with kidney disease, for example, and the vet says, oh, you've got kidney disease. You have to have some of this food because it's got kidney disease written on the bag, or it's got K
Mm.
stroke
Mm.
D, which some of our friends who make ultra processed food call it KD. Others call it renal support. And what did Purina call it? I can't remember. Our friends at Nestle, who've never made a healthy human food in their entire existence,
They'll
are
be screaming, I made a granola bar. Just
yeah,
like,
which is
it's
stuffed with
missing the
sugar and
point.
seed
Do you
oils
know,
and what
I
have
had a
you.
really interesting conversation when
Yeah,
we did the BVNA podcast on
yeah,
nutrition.
yeah.
And as part of Bella and Duke, I was asked to come on to talk about raw food feeding with a colleague of mine, one of the veterinary nurses on the team. with Mike Davies and one of the nurses from Weight Clinic, Royal Cannon Run Weight Clinic up in Liverpool University.
Yes.
And it was interesting, the start points that they started off from. But when you actually point out some of the science, the bits that they cannot disagree on, which undermines their start point.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but, coming back to, they were trying to talk about those relative risks. And, when you point out all of the other risks, even in kibble foods, and basically risks full stop from under the hedge, that actually they're trying to, if they're immunocompromised, what they need to be aware of. Well,
Hmm.
I mean, just this week, I saw another article appear. If you're immunocompromised, beware of sharing bathroom products with people that have been in hospital. So,
What?
everything from razors to the soap dish to the whatever, because it might have MRSA on it. And it's,
Wow.
so, there's just alarmisms everywhere, isn't there?
Right.
And and there was an oncology nurse that was just talking about, well, of course, there's that, they're going to be immunocompromised, but you've got to understand, we don't sterilize the guts of those animals when we're giving them chemotherapy. You can't be suggesting that, we're going to suppress their immune system so much that they can't deal with normal, effectively, combinations with their normal gut flora, their normal skin flora. Otherwise, we'd be in dire straits with
I
what we're doing for welfare.
I think what we have to realize is that we humans and our dogs have enough bacteria to probably pollute every waterway on the planet and probably kill every human being on the planet in our
Yeah.
guts every single moment of our entire
Yeah.
lives. And what Bren is suggesting is that there is a thought that many bacteria in the environment are dangerous, forgetting that we contain multitudes, another wonderful book, of bacteria with whom, even if you are going through chemotherapy, you more or less rub along with very, very well.
Mm.
Because if you were truly immunocompromised, then can you remember? I'm showing my age here. Can you remember the boy in the bubble? Yeah, Paul
Mm.
Simon sang
Mm.
about him, the boy in the bubble, and the baboon heart, and what have you.
Mm.
If you were truly immunocompromised, you could not breathe the air that everybody else thrives on. Because and there's that famous meme, isn't there? If you don't like bacteria,
Get off the planet.
you're on the wrong planet. Okay.
Yes.
And this is it. When we were at vet college, you and I, it was bacteria were the enemy and antibiotics were the
Savior.
home guard, were the savior.
Mhm.
Exactly right. And it was a good and evil, a fight of good and evil. But actually, what we've evolved into over the last 30, 40 years, which is why old codgers like us is it's quite, I think we're quite useful because we can see where we came from and where we're going to, and we're coming to a place where we're redefining pathogens. What is a pathogen? In the old days, it's Clostridium was a pathogenic bacteria. Will give you pneumonia in sheep and can cause infinite problems within the guts of humans and dogs and what have you. But they forgot the certain element, which was Clostridium species are found in the normal human and the normal dog
Mm.
gut. Okay.
Mm.
And we're just beginning to realize that.
Do you know what's more distressing? Is that the more you research this, the more references you can find that actually 100 years ago,
Exactly.
people were saying the benefits of bacteria. They were actually talking about the, emotional change, that actually the level of mental illness that occurred if you didn't have certain gut flora. There was a great, conference in 1911 on that whole subject. of psychologists looking at bacterial flora and the influence on mental health. And you go through to all of the stuff we talked about post the First World War of, what they recognized with, people's distress and post-war issues and anxieties, and then all of the influenza influence, and, what was happening with their gut flora and how you could correct it.
Mm-hmm.
And then, unfortunately, we then just fell into this whole chemical world of, oh my God, but actually, if you've got a festering wound, look what you can do with this chemical drug, this antibiotic that we've taken from nature.
Yes.
We have taken from nature, but
Yes.
we've now made it into a drug that we can manufacture and distribute to the masses. And now bacteria are all bad. But actually, that antibiotic resistance, this was one of the arguments on the BVN. Sorry, my dog's just, as my wife decided to come in. So the antibiotic resistance has actually been going on for eons, not just millennia, but eons, because it is a competition between fungi and bacteria.
Yeah.
And so resistance, again, an argument. So if you wanted to listen to this conversation around raw food versus processed foods, it's on the BVNA podcast. It is actually free to air for anybody if you go onto Spotify and just put in BVNA podcast raw nutrition.
That's
You'll probably come up
BVNA.
a
Bravo Victor
November
November
Alpha.
Alpha, and it'll be .com or
No, it's just on
.co.uk.
Spotify. Just go on
Oh,
Spotify
okay,
and just
right,
search BVNA podcast,
okay,
and you'll be able to listen to that. I believe there's no
okay,
restrictions on it. I thought it was going to be for members only, but it's no restrictions.
okay. That's
So,
really, really good. I think we could talk about that all evening because it's a fascinating philosophical point. There's a question
sorry,
here
Debbie.
from
I
Jackie.
know they've set all of your dogs off barking. Sorry, Jane.
Amazing. Just remind me, we need to plug the Raw Feeding Veterinary Society conference in Mallorca.
Oh,
I
absolutely.
believe there are some tickets left, and it's going to be amazing.
Have you seen the stars?
I
I
know,
mean, ignore those people that are comparing it.
I know, I know, I know.
That you can come along and see if you wish.
Have you got
But
a lineup? Have you actually? Just while we're here, this is very random. This chat
okay,
that we're
so
having today,
yeah,
and we cannot. We're just going to do it anyway.
we
Do
like to have
you?
a chat with everybody listening. It's all
Yeah.
right.
Do you have the thing? Because
Well, I know that
I
Fiona is right there.
ah
She's going to be talking. So I know that we've got people like Peter Tobias coming
yes,
to talk. We have wonderful Rita Hogan
we have Rita
coming to
Hogan.
talk.
Yep.
We have Lisa Hansen.
Oof, she's good. Homeopath.
So I mean,
Yeah,
look at that. That's just those three alone. You should be clamoring for tickets.
yeah.
Um, Obviously, Amaya is having a talk. We've got a great dermatologist,
Mark
Mark
Craig. Yes,
Craig, coming to talk.
he is great. He is a very very conventional dermatologist, but he has been forced kicking and screaming, I think, initially into recognizing that raw food is supremely
Mhm, mhm.
beneficial for for dermatological disease, and he's a very really fascinating
Yeah.
guy. A lot of experience and absolutely there. Have you got the dates just for the podcast people?
So that is the 18th, 19th, I want to say, of October. Is that right? 18th, 19th,
Let's get
and
this right,
into the
otherwise we're going to
Sunday
get
the 20th.
shot.
So
Okay,
you'll get shot.
18th, 19th.
Yeah,
Is that actually correct?
I believe so. That's a Friday,
Okay,
Saturday, half
okay.
day Friday, full day Saturday,
Have a
into
look at that.
Sunday.
Yeah, and all the details
A
you'll be able to get on.
weekend in Palma, Mallorca. So you don't even have to worry about the weather.
Yeah,
You can come join us. Now, look, there are a crazy load of other people coming. So for you guys who are joining us over on Dr. Judy's channel on Facebook, you will recognize the two crazy cat ladies. I'm looking forward to meeting them because I
they're
love
great.
cats.
Yeah,
So we're going to, that's a song, isn't it? Love cats. so just fine.
Love cats. Yes, it is. Yes, it
So
is.
anyway, so from yeah, see, Fiona's agreeing with me. It's the 18th, 19th of October.
Okay, thank you, Fiona.
We have actually Caroline Ingraham coming as well.
Oof.
So
Yep.
that's a whole other. There are just so many people. I mean, guys, this is like some major convention of big name people. If you want to come and talk to us face to face, be part of the gang, all you need to do is to buy a ticket and have a
Yep.
good time.
Yep.
Okay.
And come on
And if
over.
you want to go clubbing later and go up to for later in the week, then by all means, you can extend your week in Mallorca. But for us, join us in Palma, nice hotel, great company. And all you need to do is go onto the RFVS website. You can, if you're a member, you can get your extra discount. If you're not, just still come along. Please do.
RFVS
Dot
dot
info.
dot info Romeo Foxtrot Victor Sierra
Yeah.
dot info. Guys, I'm doing that super slowly because whenever we call out anything for the next 5 minutes, people say,
What was
what was
that?
that? What was that reference? All right, I'm doing it really slowly. It's okay. I mean, why not? That's fine. Here we
Fiona's
go.
saying it's a wonderfully intimate venue. I'm now a little bit worried. Which hotel did we book, Fiona?
No, it's good. It's good because we're all family. Everyone in the
Yeah.
within the raw feeding community. Where it's a family gathering. It's going to be as good as that. And Peter Tobias, he
Yeah.
doesn't do a lot of lecturing. How they managed to get him over, I do not know. But he's a fascinating guy, deep thinker, very positive,
Hmm.
lovely, open chap, and he's well worth it. Rita Hogan, we've had on the show, so you probably know her. If you don't, check her out. She's got a website. Just do the Google thing. Absolutely amazing. The mad cat lady. What are they called?
No, crazy cat ladies.
Crazy cat ladies. Mad, crazy. Yeah.
Ah.
Similar. The crazy cat ladies. They've got a wealth of information, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Who else? Have you got Fiona? Anybody can
Fiona's,
help
yeah,
me here?
she's come up. Have you not seen? Yeah, we've called out most of them. I think there's who was else? I think there is one more that I've possibly
No,
not
it's okay.
mentioned yet.
And
I think.
and Bren and I are going to be there, and we're going to be officiating. We're going to be doing some raw pet medic stuff, which is a minor attraction. It's a sideshow in the whole thing, but we will
Well,
be
we
there.
forgot to say, of course, oops, I'm seeing her next week. That's why I've not mentioned her name. As Professor Anna is also joining us with a couple of her researchers to bring us the latest in research. So you're going to hear that. Billy Hokeman is
Billy Hookman.
flying all the way from the States. Anybody who's in the States, come on, guys, you've got to understand there are so many people coming from the States to be with us. You should be getting on the flights with them and coming across. So, oh my word, there is so many people coming with their families.
It's amazing.
It's amazing,
It's going to be
guys.
amazing.
It's
And
going to be
Palma
brilliant.
and Mallorca it's an absolute dream, and it'll be the autumn. It won't be too hot. It'll be warm,
Yeah.
beautiful, lovely. I'm really looking forward to it. We're going to have a few days there, and we do a lot of serious stuff during the day, and then the evening we're going to eat some amazing food. We're going to go out dancing.
Hmm.
We're going to have a great time. Seriously, it's going to be absolutely fantastic. I cannot wait.
Oh,
It'll be amazing.
yeah.
I'm going to bring us back briefly to nutrition because this is supposed to be back to food. I'm going to bring us back to
Oh,
food,
raw
Brendan.
feeding
I'm going to
veterinary
bring us back to
society.
food. And Jackie Ward, God bless her, says, do conventional vets believe certain KD food is a good diet for kidney problems, or are they just following their practices protocol and promoting a certain brand? I am so conflicted as to this answer. Now, there's a lot in that question. Do you want to have a little go first
Yeah,
of
I you
all?
see. I understand what you're saying, Jackie. I think um, to some degree, I get frustrated when half the time they don't understand why they're feeding that diet. They just think it's made for animals with renal disease, therefore I'm going to feed it. They don't understand the individual nutrients that are going to benefit a renal patient. They don't look at omega-3 levels. They don't look at the individual papers for what's within those diets, the quality of protein. They're trying to make sure that the animals keep eating, all of these side of things. Some of these diets don't actually encourage that. The biggest issue that they're dealing with is trying to restrict excessive urea production, and they're secondly trying to restrict the amount of phosphates
Decreasing
that are
phosphate. Yeah.
getting into the bloodstream. And
Yeah.
that's really all they're doing. And they created a diet out of a base processed food, which then had couple of caveats to it. And one being they didn't want to add too much protein, so they kept it a bit lower. And two, because that's the urea source, that the ammonia being hived off the protein to actually then be bound into urea and building up because the kidneys weren't filtering it properly. And then the phosphates, partly because they were adding inorganic phosphates to the diet to increase the phosphate amounts, because they need those for energy production. But actually, the body cannot control them if the hormones from the kidneys aren't functioning properly. So we end up with excessive amounts circulating in the bloodstream. So they decided to bind phosphates. So you can get phosphate binders if you're still giving foods and you're finding the phosphate levels going up in your pet's diet. But actually, the studies show that if you give phosphates in their natural form, bound in bone material, then actually the body doesn't suffer from the that's the excessive phosphatemias, that's the phosphates in the blood. So it's something that you should be thinking, do you know what? You can truly think about dietary change. You can be going, okay, I'm going to add more omega-3s. There's lots of evidence there actually for a lot of other inflammatory diseases, but kidney disease being one of them, that it will improve blood pressure. It will improve the filtration and the scarring within the kidney, therefore improve the kidney function. So getting omega-3s in at a good high level is really important. You can add foods which have vitamin D3 in them because they're naturally rich in those. I love Nick's little thing of feed the food of the ill organs. So give them, if they've got kidney disease, why don't you give them a little bit more kidney? Because it's going to be full of nutrients which the kidney needs to support itself. And also some of the hormones and other things that are released by those kidneys for the other animals before they gave their life for our food, are going to be ultimately in that kidney and going to be beneficial to your pet. So you've got an easy win of increase the amount of kidney for a kidney patient, increase the amount of omega-3s within the diet, monitor. I always say those blood tests are really good to give you a monitor of things that you might need to change. Okay, so lots of stuff that you can be doing. There is no reason why a good raw diet isn't going to support their system without creating lots of waste urea. Okay, we don't need to be worrying too much if you're giving quality protein, and quality protein is that's not been adulterated by heat and processing. Because what can you do with rubbish protein? Just as we do with our rubbish, sometimes the only way you can recycle it is to turn it into energy. That doesn't mean it's more digestible. That just means it makes more smoke. It makes more waste product, as they have to create energy by cleaving the ammonia group off the protein. So that just creates more ammonia. So actually, a good quality protein to me is one that can actually be recycled and reused by the body the most easily. So don't corrupt it.
Good stuff. So Jackie points out about KD food, but KD is only one. You know,
Hmm.
all three of the big Mars, the Nestle's,
I
and the
think that very much
Procter and
depends on the
Gamble.
practice, though. I think you will find them just as much eulogizing about the other
Yes, they
renal
will.
diets, dependent on what they've got to hand.
But that is part of the question, and
Mm.
in that, so I'm going to go into kind of the politics of this because you've done the science of it very nicely just then. So, um, if you are not running a practice, they will probably, possibly have a protocol to say if dogs and cats come in with kidney disease, this is the diet that we use, and it doesn't matter whether it's um, Hills or it's Royal Canin or whoever it might be. That is the protocol, and I think that's very restrictive, and it's a bit of a shame. Um, I saw a professor of internal medicine about 20 years ago who was lamenting that we vets and I was doing this at one point as well. We are defaulting to off the peg foods. That is to say, some company has put nutrient A, B, and C together for us for a certain disease. When in the 90s and the early 2000s, the veterinary medicines directorate said, right, there are no, we are going to seriously reduce the amount of compound drugs that vets can use. For example, back in the day, there was a thing called phenobiotic, and this was phenidine, which is really powerful non-steroidal anti-inflammatory, and it was combined with an antibiotic. So it's just you just fill the syringe with this, and you give it, and off you go. You've got a non-steroidal going into the animal, and you've got an antibiotic. Hey presto! And the veterinary medicine director didn't like this. And so they separate. They said phenidine, very useful, and antibiotics, very useful. But you've got to separate them so that there is a degree of customization that you can actually bring to each different case. And this is Penny Watson, Professor Penny Watson at Cambridge. And she said, well, we're doing that for pharmaceuticals. Why don't we do it for nutrients? Because what's happening is that vets will say, oh my God, we've got kidney disease. Let's go for the let's go for the brain.
Combined, the
Hey, and a
pre-combined,
D
yeah.
on it. Let's go for the renal thing because I
Mm.
can't read, and this is putting it on. This is, and I'm not decrying veterinary medicine in the slightest. It's just that the food industry, big food industry, has come along and they've kind of schmoozed them over the years to say, don't worry, if your dog has kidney disease, we will take care of the food side of things. You don't need to worry about the nutrients. You don't need to worry about the ingredients. You don't need to worry
Mm.
about the fact that you are feeding a dried pellet to an animal who already has a problem with electrolytes and fluid balance. This would be like putting children who have kidney disease onto fortified digestive biscuits, feeding a dried food. It's absolute madness when actually those children, they need real food with real moisture within the food in order to um, move as far as they can towards an equilibrium, a food equilibrium. They may need some pharmaceuticals on top of that to help them with their disease process. But to stymie them at the beginning of their therapeutic journey, whether it's a child or a dog or a cat, with giving them, I mean, this is medicine 101. First, do no harm. You got kidney disease and you're giving dried food. It's absolute madness.
Mm.
A
Mm.
primary school child could tell you that that's probably not a very good idea. So we're just coming to the
Well, you
end.
say that. Say that. Look, just before we come to the end, and I know that we're a minute off. It's interesting because there are certain health professionals, in fact, even nutritionists, that still cannot get into their heads why breakfast cereals are not the healthiest start to your child's day.
Mm, mm, mm.
They say that it's just a fad, that actually breakfast cereals are the most brilliant start to your child's day.
Seriously,
Yeah,
you know
and I
nutritionists
was
who say
gobsmacked,
what?
absolutely gobsmacked.
Very briefly, tell us the story, and then what I think we should do for a bit on the side for our
Well, people will hear
lovely.
it. If they listen to the BVNA podcast, people will
Oh,
hear it. So they just like, I was gobsmacked. I said, you cannot seriously think
oh,
that
okay,
that is the healthiest diet to start your child
okay,
on.
guys, you have
But
got to
anyway,
listen to that because uh, that is
there
it is
are so
absolutely stunning.
many things on that. I'm going to have to answer some of the bits that are coming up on the bit on the side because there are little bits here, there, and everywhere coming up. Look, there are so many prescription diets. I'm going to answer the last one before we say
Yeah,
goodbye to the other side, and that
yeah,
is somebody gets really upset that these are called prescription diets. And
yeah.
did you know that actually it's not anything to do with because they're licensed? It was literally a marketing ploy before there were restrictions on what you could call diets. And then they stuck with the name because they won that they'd been using it for long enough that it was actually a brand
Grandfather
name.
rights. Yeah,
And so you could argue, and I'm not necessarily advocating for this company, you could argue that without veterinary care, you couldn't feed this food repeatedly for fear of doing harm to a patient that was otherwise well. So I'm going to defend it in that way. I was suggesting with faint, damning it with faint praise,
yeah.
that
I think that
actually there
yeah,
is a risk to your pet's health if you feed this diet without veterinary advice.
yeah. There are several diets, and I can name a few, but I won't. There are several diets where they actually give that specific SD, for example.
Oh, I need to press the wrong button. So I'm going to quickly flip over to a bit on the side. If you want to join us over on the patreon.com/raw pet medics, you can join us as Nick refines his access so that we will talk about the next bit of foods and prescription diets and health over on a bit on the side. Nick's joining us now. He's coming back into stream. Please do come and join us and find us at the RFVS conference. We are comparing. We're going to look forward to that. And I'd also love to speak to you if you're at any of the dog fests. I'm there with Bella and Duke. I'm going to do some pet clinics, so pop-in clinics. You can book a spot. We can speak to you in person. That's every weekend, just about through September and into the beginning of October. And there's just so much coming up. I've got some good podcasts coming. So we are going to be there. If you do want to, in about an hour's time, we'll release 10 to 15 minutes, especially for our Patreon goers, just for the price of a pint. And if you don't know what a pint is, at least a cup of coffee, then come and find us over on a bit on the side. Take care, everyone. Bye bye.